Welcome to the Thrive Careers Podcast, the show that helps you move your career confusion to career success, hosted by the extraordinary Olajumoke Fatoki. Each episode is packed with expert insights, real-life stories, and practical strategies to help you land your dream job, level up, and build a career you love. No more guesswork, just clear, actionable steps to help you thrive. If you're ready, let's jump right into it. Welcome to another exciting episode of the Thrive Careers Podcast. Today, we are diving into the transformative journey of reinvention, how to own your story, break free from limiting labels, and thrive in every area of your life. Our guest today is Charlotte Bidgood, an executive and HR leader and co-founder of Inclusive People. Charlotte, we are thrilled to have you on the podcast. Can you start by telling us a bit about your story and how your journey has shaped the work you do today?
Of course. It's really great to be here. Thank you so much for having me on the show. So just to explain a bit about me, I was a teenage mum, so I had my daughter I was pregnant at the age of 16 and I had my daughter at 17. I never went to university. I have very, very few formal qualifications, but through that sort of adversity and that challenge in my younger life, I would say it's really fueled me to progress my career. So I started my career in a retail store and actually was lucky enough for somebody to say, do you want to come and work in HR? Because I didn't want to work weekends anymore. I was fed up of sort of working in retail. So I fell into HR, and really through sort of having great conversations with people, being really open to learning and sort of having a growth mindset to everything and taking opportunities that were thrown at me, I really progressed my HR career. The most recent corporate role that I had was the senior HR director of Activision Blizzard. So they make the video game Call of Duty. I'm sure if you're a gamer, you'd know the company. So that was my last corporate role. And then most recently, I left that job and I have recently just set up a HR consultancy called Inclusive People, as you mentioned. I'm the co-founder of that with my business partner, and we help corporate tech, video games, IT organizations to bring in better people cultures, improve inclusion, and we do a huge amount of coaching work with corporate organizations as well to help executives, as you say, female members of staff, really develop them and help them grow into their careers and sort of achieve their ambitions as well. So that's a little bit about me.
Fantastic. That's a really inspiring story, Charlotte. Thank you so much for taking us on that journey. I know that we are going to dive further into it, but for now, we have a tradition on this show. So the question is, if your career journey were to be a movie, what would the title be? And why?
Okay, it would be this. I don't know if you can see it, but it would be Prove Them Wrong, Babe. So this is a picture. I painted this and it very much sums up my mantra to my career, right? I think so many people kind of think they can't do things and they shouldn't do things and they're not ready for things, but my mantra is prove them wrong. Go after it. You can have what you want. Through my own career and my own journey, I would say I've done a lot of this, and it's definitely been something that's fueled me. So I would say Prove Them Wrong, Babe would be my film title.
Amazing, and I love it. Prove them wrong. You can be anything you want to be if you put your mind to it. And Charlotte here has been able to tell us that is really possible. I'm sure you guys would enjoy the story. So please just sit back and join us in this conversation. So one of the things that sets you apart as a coach is your ability to help clients transform their personal struggles into professional strengths. And your story is such a powerful example of this. So my question is, how can people begin to embrace their experiences, even the seemingly painful or shameful ones, and reframe them as a source of strength?
Yeah, of course. I think, so many people face adversity in their life. So many people don't come from the easiest amount of circumstances. They don't come from families with two, secure parents. They don't come from a background with, a rich plethora of resources, or they don't have role models around them. So many people are not blessed with all of these resources that many people are. And what I would say is, if you feel as though you are, you have had some painful experience. I think it's sometimes looking at that as though it's not happening to you, it's happening for you. So many of the difficult things in my life that have happened have actually really given me a great learning experience. It's given me exposure to things that maybe somebody doesn't have. It's given me the opportunity to empathize more with other people. So I do think, adversity can be something that really can fuel you. And I would say have faith that actually you have the abilities to do what you want to do. And don't be afraid to step out of your comfort zone. Don't believe that actually your story is it and the circumstance that you were born into is all that you have. So many people have overcome those things. And I think look for those stories, look for role models who are like you, and actually reach out to people and talk to them and ask people how they have achieved their stories, because people are so willing to talk about themselves and their lived experience. So look for mentors, look for role models, and actually think, how can I make the most of this situation? How can I make the most of the resources that I have, and not lean into it, lean away from it and look for the positives in the situation.
Amazing. You've said so many things. Look for the positives in the situation. It is not happening to you, it's happening for you. Do you want to tell us a bit more about that?
Yeah, of course. I would say starting my own business has been a whole new roller coaster. I think, I'd done 15 years in corporate HR, was very comfortable. And I think sort of starting my own business has been a whirlwind of new challenges. And I would say a lot of the challenges that I've faced in being a co-founder and creating a business are definitely a case of it's not happening to me, it's happening for me. We recently met a client who was a potential client who was sharing some great things with us, was really talking to us about, these big opportunities, lots of sort of possibilities to working together. But there was something in me and my business partner that just wasn't gelling right. We just didn't feel as though it was all a bit hypothetical. It was all a bit unrealistic what he was sharing with us. And ultimately there was part of us that hoped that opportunity would come to fruition, but there was part of us that didn't feel as though it was totally legitimate. And actually the deal fell apart. But there was a big bit of us that thought, you know what? It actually didn't feel right. There was something in our intuition that was saying this isn't a good match for our company. And I think we just had to say, you know what, that wasn't the right opportunity and we're going to walk away and everything's fine. So sometimes you just have to be willing to know, if something's for you, it will be for you. And if it's not, be okay that it's not, because something better will come.
That's amazing. And I think that's a good way to really look at it. There was no connection, and that's paying attention as well. You could have gone ahead on that journey and you would have regretted that decision. So
I think trusting your gut and your instinct is very important, definitely.
That is the right word. Trusting your guts and your instincts. They always lead you right. Trust me. They always lead you right. Okay. Let's talk about breaking free from labels. And, not only have you defied societal labels like being a scrounging teenage mother, but you've also been able to build an inspiring career that others would love to do the same. And, this makes you uniquely positioned to help people who feel weighed down by stereotypes. What advice do you have for others who are still struggling to overcome similar stereotypes?
Yeah, of course. I would just say, I actually took a lot of fuel from people believing that I was going to fail. I think, when I was pregnant and I was a teenage mum, there's a lot of stigma around that. I think, there's a lot of joy in people having children younger as well, because actually, you're fit, you're healthy, you're very able to have children. So there's a lot of positives to it. But I think in the UK in particular, it's seen as quite a negative stereotype. So everyone says you've ruined your life, you'll fail, you'll be on benefits, forever. And that actually really drove me to say, no, I won't. And I think there's an element of don't lean into it, lean away and work out, how can I be different? How can I show that these people are wrong? And actually there's so much more to me than what people see. And then I find a real joy in being underestimated. I actually love it when people don't think that I can do something, or I meet somebody and they say, well, what do you do? Thinking I might be, I don't know, a shop worker or working in hospitality. And probably when I was a bit younger, I think now I'm a bit more certain of who I am and my identity is a bit clearer. But when I was younger, and I would tell people what I do, and they would always be really surprised. They'd be like, oh, you're a head of HR or you're a HR business partner. And I'd be like, yeah. And there would be a sense of surprise. And now one of the things that always makes me laugh is I'll talk to people and I'll tell them who I am, and I'll meet somebody new and different. And we'll often get onto the topic of children or family situations, and they'll say, do you have children? And I'll be like, yeah, I have a 22-year-old daughter. And people are always so surprised, and I love it. I love being like, oh, thank you for the surprise. It's not because it makes me feel young. It's because I love people just thinking that they know you. And then, when you tell them a bit more about you, they really just assumed something or sort of, thought they knew something about you. So I love surprising people, and I love sort of, making people go, she's more than I thought she was. So I'm happy when people underestimate me. It sort of brings me joy, to be honest, to prove people wrong. So that's very important. And what I would say is, people will have stereotypes. People will sort of feel like they have a stigma or something on their chip on their shoulder, and people will judge them. But actually, people judge everybody. So, for example, if you're an employee in a business and somebody says, what university did you go to? And you went to uni and you got a degree, but maybe it wasn't the right university. People will judge you even if you went to university or if you didn't go to university, or if you've got this job or if you've got that job. So let your story be your story and don't worry too much about what people think of you.
Amazing. Lean away from it, right? Don't lean into it. That's really a great perspective to look at it. And, I loved what you said about allowing people to think whatever they want to think, but then you bring on that element of surprise. They are shocked. So own your own story, lean away from it, don't lean into it, learn from it if you need to. And that brings me to my next question, right? That is there any role that self-acceptance plays in breaking some of these labels that we've talked about?
Yeah, so much. I think, knowing who you are and what you're about and what your values are is really important. With my coaching clients, a lot of the work that I'll do is around what are your values, what are your non-negotiables. And actually, I think knowing that, what do you stand for? I would say I'm one of the things that I stand for the most is I'm really, really a non-judgmental person. That's easy to say, but I would say to the point of I feel like there's been many a time when I've been judged in my life. And therefore, I find it really important that actually one of my true values is, let's say I'm a pluralist, which means I have very little judgment against anybody and what they do. I think there's a real sense of sort of living and let live. So that's definitely sort of knowing your values and what you stand for is really important. And I think being able to look back and see your own growth is very important. I do a lot of I think a lot of where I am now is because of a lot of the self-development work that I've done. I meditate, journal, I manifest. I mean, there's lots of different schools of thoughts around manifestation, but I am a true believer in the thoughts that you have control where you go, and the words that you speak matter. So I really do think about those things. So knowing, who you are, what you want, and celebrating your own success is really important. Noting I wasn't where I am 5 years ago, and I'm proud of myself for that is important. People aren't always going to cheer for you. So be your own cheerleader sometimes, because people won't notice the little bits of growth that you've had yourself, but you need to notice them and you need to celebrate your own personal growth, definitely.
That's amazing. Can you tell us a bit more about manifestation?
Yeah, of course. So I believe in manifesting, and I've definitely had some successes with it in my life. So for me, manifestation is thinking about something that you want and putting it out there. So imagining it, seeing it, believing it, giving it a color, visualizing exactly what's going to happen. And some people, there's very many different schools of thought around manifestation. The book, The Secret, is probably the guru's guide. If you want to read one thing on manifestation, probably start there. But I do think some people believe just say it, put it out there, and that is it. I'm not really a big believer in that. I think say it, put it out there and take some action is important. So, I would say one of the greatest successes I had with manifestation was I was trying to sell my house and buy another house. And every day, multiple times a day, I would think what's the price I'm going to buy the house for? What's the date that we're going to sell the house? And I was really, really clear about what I wanted. I was still making all the calls to the solicitor and the realtor and all of those things every day to push it forwards. But I was really clear about how things were going to work out. And they really did work out that way. So I'm not saying it's for everybody, but for me, it definitely works.
Amazing. And I love it. And thanks for sharing that with us. The action part of it is what I really do love. All right. So what inspired you to move from a corporate role to starting your own business? And what steps can someone take when they feel stuck and want to reinvent their life?
Yeah, of course. I would say kind of what inspired me was probably opportunity and a feeling. So I would say I've been in senior HR roles probably for 5 or 6 years. So heads of, director, senior director. And I was kind of getting to a point where I wasn't feeling inspired and energized that much anymore. I was working in a big corporate organization, which was quite male dominated because it was a gaming organization, which is notoriously quite a heavily male-orientated industry. And I was sort of wanting to make change, but not feeling as though I was making enough change to the people and cultural environment there. And I just wasn't sort of feeling energized to get out of bed anymore. Whereas my career is so much a part of me. It's so much like of my identity, but I wasn't really feeling that anymore. And I was feeling I wasn't maybe doing my team as much justice as I could be. Then I saw an opportunity for me to ask to take voluntary redundancy. So that's what I did. I took redundancy, and I was thinking, what am I going to do? Because if I just go to another HR role, another senior director or VP of HR, I'm probably just going to feel the same because I've done this many years. And actually, one of the things that I enjoy the most is learning and growing and feeling a bit out of my comfort zone, feeling as though I don't know exactly what I'm doing. I take a lot of joy in actually kind of learning and growing. And so I thought another HR role isn't going to do it for me. And one of my colleagues at Activision Blizzard also left at the same time. And we just had a conversation and said, you know what, we really want to make a difference to this industry. We really want to make it better. We want to make it more inclusive. We want to make the culture better in the gaming industry. So let's set up a business that does that. So we had these bigger aspirations, more about the industry than a singular company, which was really exciting. So through that, I got a lot of power from feeling out of my comfort zone, creating a business, learning how to set up a business. So it's been a very steep learning curve, but it's been a really good learning curve. So that's what inspired me to move from corporate to setting up my own business. And it doesn't come without challenges, but I would say one of the biggest positives that I've seen in that is having a business partner. And that's not really what we're here to discuss today. But what I would say is if you're thinking about setting up your own company and feeling a bit scared about doing it on your own, there's been a lot of joy for me in having a business partner and having a colleague to think, how do we do this? So that's an offshoot.
Yes. So what steps can someone take when they feel stuck and want to reinvent their lives?
Yeah. So I think if you feel stuck, I think one of the best questions to ask yourself is, am I happy? Which, you might think, this is my career. Am I going to be happy? But I think people should be happy in their careers. And it's a question that I'll often ask my coaching colleagues, like, are you happy? Because we all deserve to be happy, I think.
Welcome to the
and what I would say is,
podcast,
think about your whole life when you ask yourself that question. Because you may be feeling stuck in your career, or you may be feeling as though it's a little bit flat, and actually there's not growing in your career. But it may be that there's other areas of your life that are working really well. So it might be that your relationships are really positive, or you have great hobbies, or that your personal life is really positive. So sometimes it's not that all areas of your life can feel great, and that's okay. But if you're feeling stuck with work, I would say get really quiet, like turn off the TV, turn off the content, turn off the podcasts, and just get clear in your mind around what is it that would make you happy, what would make you feel more comfortable at work. Just give yourself some space in your mind, because I think we consume so much content, we consume so many people's stories, that I would say just switch everything off and just get clear in your mind and think about what is it that you want from. And I think write down your dreams. I was listening to a podcast today with Mel Robbins. I don't know if anybody has heard of her, but she's a great mindful coach, I suppose. And she was saying, write down 5 dreams a day. That sounds like quite a lot. How many dreams do we all have? But she said, write them down because it will just make you think bigger. It will make you think more about what is it that you really want from life. And when you write something down, it's far more likely to happen. So what I would say is get clear on what you really want for your life if you're feeling stuck. And I would say just make sure you're clear on your goals and what you really want from a job or a career. And then maybe go and speak to some people in the areas that you want to work in, because I think, there's great role models and mentors out there that we should absolutely be utilising. So those would be the things that I'd say if you're feeling stuck.
Fantastic. And I have a follow-up question to that. But I heard you clearly. Clarity, is what it is. If you're feeling stuck, you need to uncover whatever it is that is clogging your ability to really see through. So remove all of those through clarity. And, Charlotte couldn't have said that any better. But what are strategies or resources that you would recommend, for people who are going through this journey? Do you have?
Yeah, definitely. I would say mentors for me has been one of the biggest things. Mentors and role models. It's difficult sometimes to find them. And I think it's difficult to ask sometimes for people to give you advice. But what I would say is people love talking about themselves. So, if you said to somebody, well, I'd love to hear more about how you got to where you are, it'd be really helpful. I aspire to be in a role like yours or to do something similar to you. People are quite flattered by that and people love to share their own stories. So I would say role models and mentors are a really good way of being able to progress your career. If you ask somebody, how did you get here? What did you do? What would you advise me or recommend me to do? Or who would you go and speak to? People are generally really helpful and people generally want to help other people up. Because I know for me, I had so many people in my career either recommend me or suggest me for a promotion or connect me to somebody. And because I had that happen to me, I'm so willing to do it for other people because I know that it really helped me in my career. Find role models, find mentors. Don't be afraid to go and ask people to tell you their story because generally people are flattered by that and want to do it.
That's really good. Thank you. The key word for me is don't be afraid. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. All right, so let's talk about from surviving to thriving, which we have seen your story has reinforced that for us. And it's clear that you've mastered not only surviving, but thriving in your own career. So how can people move from a survival mindset to truly thriving and stepping out into their superpower?
Yeah, so I would say one of the biggest things is be grateful now. And, I think these words manifestation, gratitude, they're all thrown around a lot these days. But I think, we all want more, but actually we're blessed with so many things right now. A lot of people, there's a lot of challenges in the world, particularly economically, but generally most people in the West have something to be grateful for. So, I would say just be grateful for your circumstances now and don't sort of I think victim state can be quite dangerous. I think if we kind of stay in the mind of life's really hard and I'm unlucky and things don't work out for me, I think that noise in our minds can actually block us from, good things coming. So I think when you're in a state of gratitude, just what you have now, I think that's a really positive thing. So, some people might not be blessed with that much, but if you've got clean running water in your tap, then you're probably quite lucky. If you've got a bed to sleep on, then you're probably quite grateful for that. Even if they're basic things, be grateful for what you have today. I think that's really important. And then I think sort of moving from, survival to thriving, I think is realize how good you are as well. I think realize what you have to offer. Write down a list of all of the great traits that you have and be ready to tell people about those, not in a boastful ego way, but actually know what you should be proud of, know what you bring to the table, because I'm sure you have great skills and great abilities, even if that's that you're a very resourceful person or that you have a great network or that you have a really good mind for learning and that you're really open to things. One of the biggest skills and mindsets for the next 20 to 50 years will be our ability to grow and learn, because skills, AI, technology, it's changing so quickly. So people can't be that well skilled in anything. So people with growth and learning mindsets they're really key. So even if that's your skill, write that down. I learn quickly and I'm interested in learning new things. I think the other way to sort of move from survival to thriving is to have dreams and have ambitions. I think be conscious about what you want, write it down and create it. If you want to be, I don't know, a chief people officer in 5 years' time, write it down, make a plan. These things are never just going to happen. Like, things don't really just happen. You don't move from, let's say, a HR advisor to a CPO by not having a plan. So write it down. What you're going to do in 1 year, what you're going to do in 2 years, what you're going to do in 3 years. Be clear about your plan and have a journey. It won't always work out like that, but it's like, you're not going to get to the other side of Canada without GPS or a map, right? So make that map, draw that line, be clear on what you want next. So I think those are probably the key things to moving from that mindset.
Fantastic, to making that shift. So do you have a story from your coaching journey, of someone who you can share with us who has gone through this and made that shift?
Yeah, I mean, I would say I had one client who was very sort of technically driven, but actually sort of when it came to the mindset and the people skills and the sort of being vibrant and open to new opportunities, they really weren't that. And I think one of the biggest things was that actually they were quite a closed person in big groups of people. People couldn't really gauge their personality. She didn't have that many sort of friends or that many advocates of her. We did a lot of work on actually sort of relationships and the importance of people knowing who she was and like authentically the type of person that she was. And that was hard because she was quite a closed person. But I think the more that you know yourself, the more that you can show yourself and build those relationships around you, the further that you will go. And as I say, she was very technical at what she did, but those personality traits just were never shown that much. But through some work that we did, actually, she was able to build much better, stronger relationships. But that was generally through showing her authentic self more and vulnerability as well. So vulnerability to go out and sort of say, I'm not that comfortable in these group scenarios, but I'm here. So just helping her be authentic and vulnerable was probably the two of the most important traits to push her forwards.
And that's really beautiful. Authenticity and vulnerability, the combination of those two forces, mind-blowing. So there you have it, listeners. You have to show up as your authentic self and just do it. Don't overthink it. And I think that's another pit that a lot of people get to fall into, overthinking and just, the need to show up perfect. We still have to talk more about manifestation because it is really powerful, all right? Believing in our possibilities. The question today is how can people effectively improve their mindset and begin to look at their own lives differently when they are ready to reinvent themselves?
Is packed with expert insights,
tools.
real
I
life
would say
stories,
some of the
and
stuff that I've already talked about has definitely helped me. So I would say probably the biggest tools would be journaling and meditation, definitely. Gratitude would be a really important one. And I think getting out there and talking to new people, I think there's a phrase that says you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And I would truly believe that is real. If you're spending time with people that are slightly draining and not motivating, they don't inspire you, then you probably won't be inspired. But I would say such a sort of tool is getting out to speak to different people. And you might think, how do you do that? And it can be hard sometimes, but I would say sometimes just smiling at people and being willing to say, start a conversation is important. And that not everyone's confident enough to do that, but I think it's a good way to do it. But if not, there's a lot of ways to network. So, there's a lot of sites like meetups or event sites that sort of have different networking events on them. LinkedIn will probably have different live events that you can go to, or say your industry may have different events. Go to those events and actually go and network with people, go and talk to different people, go and be inspired by different people's stories, different people's journeys. I think there's such a wealth of of inspiration and insight when you start meeting new people. So I know it sounds difficult, but also if you're going to a networking event, what I would say is everybody is there to network. So don't feel like it's going to be difficult, because it's exactly what it says on the tin. You're there to network, to talk to new people. So yeah, remember, you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So make those people good people.
Amazing. You are the average of the 5 people you spend time with. So make those people good people. Thank you so much, Charlotte, for taking us through that journey. It's been inspiring and interesting. But before we let you go, right, we have 3 rapid fire questions that I would like to ask you. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right, so let's talk about a life-changing advice. So what's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
Okay, these are quick fire. I'll try and make them quick. So this one, I would say, I had an old boss, and I can remember speaking to her one day and saying, I came in, I'm going to be HR business partner Charlotte today. And she went, why are you not just going to be Charlotte? And I was like, oh, I have lots of different hats. I'm Charlotte at work, I'm Charlotte the mum, I'm Charlotte the friend. And she was like, why are you not just yourself all the time? And I was like, oh, can I be myself all the time? She says, yeah, just be yourself. And I was like, oh, okay. So there's this thing about just be authentic. Like, you don't have to be multiple different people. Just be you. People will love you the most for just being you. Don't try and pretend to be a certain type of you.
That's really amazing, and I love it. Thank you. Be yourself. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. Be authentic. People will get to love you for who you are. Thank you so much. All right, so let's talk about a book. What book do you recommend for someone looking to reinvent themselves?
This is easy. This was a book that changed my life. The book is called The Miracle Morning. It's by a writer called Hal Elrod, and it basically talks about starting a morning routine. So there's another book called The 5 a.m. Club, which people might have heard of. They're similar. I think this one came first. And it basically talks about a 6-step routine to do before you start your day, which is called Savers. So the first one is silence, which is about meditating for a few minutes. The A is about affirmation, so affirming what you want in life. The V is visualization, so visualizing, manifesting what you want. The E is exercising, doing a few minutes of exercising, whether that's star jumps or dancing around the room, whatever, wake yourself up. And the R is reading, so a few minutes of reading. And the S is scribing, so journaling. Doing those 6 things for a few minutes before you start your day, you're so far ahead of so many people once you've done that. And it really changed my life. Read the book in 2017 and made me see this whole new world of self-development and self-improvement. So I would recommend it.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. So let's talk about fun facts. What's one surprising or unexpected talent of yours that most people wouldn't know?
I don't know if it's a talent, but it's a story. So it's a fun fact. Let's call it that. So when I was probably 13, I went to a drama school, a stage school, and we were all auditioned for the first Harry Potter film to be extras in the first Harry Potter film. So we all got the job, we were fitted for our costumes, all good. The film was going through process, looking for funding for about 9 months before they came back to us and said, we're ready for you to hit the stage and come and do filming for the film. Went back to be fitted for the costume, and sadly I'd grown about a foot in that time. I'd gone from 13 to 14, got much taller, much more grown up, and they said I couldn't be in the film anymore. So it's a kind of fun fact, but I didn't make it into the first Harry Potter film, sadly.
Thank you for being vulnerable enough to share that with us. We love it. Charlotte, your insights today have been incredibly invaluable. It's clear why so many people trust you to help them navigate their career and personal transformations. But before we wrap up, finally, what's one key message you would love to leave with anyone who is feeling stuck or afraid to reinvent themselves?
2 things. Be authentic, be you. People will love you for the truest version of you, and be vulnerable. If you don't know, tell somebody you don't know. If you feel uncomfortable, tell them. Everyone else is probably feeling the same, but it needs somebody to put it in the room and show their vulnerability first, and don't be afraid to be that person.
Beautiful, and I love it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's been amazing.
Yeah, finally, where can our listeners connect with you? To learn more about your coaching services and the work that you're doing with inclusive people?
Yeah, of course. So You can go to my LinkedIn. So I'm Charlotte Bidgood, and we have our company website, which is www.inclusivepeopleltd.com, or you can find Inclusive People on LinkedIn as well. So thank you.
Fantastic. And that brings us to the end of this show. It's been an amazing time. Until we come your way again next time, keep thriving. Bye, everyone.
And that's it for today's episode of Thrive Careers Podcast. I'm Olajumoke Fatoki, reminding you that no matter where you are in your career, you have the power to rewrite your story. If you've enjoyed today's insights, do not forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with someone who's ready to thrive. If you have questions or topics you would like for me to cover, let's connect. I'd love to hear from you. Remember, clarity creates confidence, and confidence leads to success. Until next time, stay inspired and keep thriving.